Welcome to Econ Unplugged. I'm Tanisha.
I'm Trisha.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Sia.
We're four friends who talk about what's going on in the economy and why it matters. No buzzwords, no lectures, just a straight up conversation. Today, our topic is the clustering paradox, essentially, why similar businesses are located next to each other. When we talk about this topic, one of the major factors is the type of product. It can either be a homogeneous product or a heterogeneous product. We can start off by talking about the economic theories that apply to a homogeneous product.
Okay, so starting off with a homogeneous product is essentially one which has substitutes of the same price, same quality, and same type. One economic theory that applies to this is the Harold Hotelling's theory, which essentially says that if there are two products that are alike, they can be clustered together to in the same location to gain more customers. Now, let's understand this with an example. Let's say there are two ice cream vendors on a beach and customers are spread evenly across the shore. You'd think that they'd spread out to minimize walking distance for everyone to reach the social optimum. However, the stable equilibrium has both of them clustering in the middle of the beach, both the vendors. Now, why this happens is because each vendor is incentivized to move slightly towards the center to capture more than half the market. So, if your competitor is left of the center, you can grab more customers towards your right, nudging toward them. And this process repeats until both the vendors end up at the center. And that is your prime location where even though customers are traveling more, they have access to both the ice cream vendors side by side.
So essentially, what this leads to is the Nash equilibrium, which is like this is the worst possible outcome for both the vendors because now, since the product is like exactly the same, it does not depend on where you are situated. It is purely luck on whom the customers buy from. So essentially,
Hmm.
it's the worst possible outcome.
Yeah.
Why this would happen is why the vendors would decide to move closer together in the first place is because of consumer footfall. Now, it isn't enough to just have half or maybe a quarter of the beach, as Hannah spoke about. They would want as many customers as they want, and they would actually start competing with the other person to grab some of their customers. So then that is how it plays out.
Yeah. And also, when we speak about the worst outcome, one cannot have its best without the other being at its absolute worst. So they both decide mutually that the worst is what they can settle for.
So this comes from the game theory concept, where yeah, they both want
Some of them want to
to
gain.
worse for the
So
yeah,
both of them,
we are the
neither of
best.
them would make a sacrifice willingly. They would be under the impression that they're making the best choice for themselves, but eventually it leads to the worst one.
Yeah. But practically, it does not play out that way because products are not similar. The consumer footfall is not equally spread. So the decisions regarding location are different. So here we come to heterogeneous products, which are essentially different products, or they have some kind of differentiation.
So a perfect competition is not actually possible in real life. This is because there are no homogeneous products. Each product will always usually have its own different price or it at least like one different feature in it. So although markets do sometimes come really close to a perfect competition, this never actually happens. Uh, so, which is why this entire Nash equilibrium and game theory is just a theory. It doesn't really happen in real life. Suppliers won't usually make the worst possible decision for themselves.
So this leads us to the concept of heterogeneous products, which is practically the case where consumer distribution is not equal and the type of products are not the same. So when we talk
Yeah.
about that, another economic theory comes into play, which is agglomeration economies.
Yeah. So in that, so the idea is that businesses like they benefit more, they have more cost benefits just by being next to each other because they're sharing infrastructure and like they have labor in the same area as well.
So, and they also have similar suppliers. So that entire cost of production comes down because if there are two vendors going together, the supplier might agree to like come to a lower price and they're supplying to all the similar firms in the same location. So the transport cost is also
Yeah.
reduced.
So
So
this
basically an
economics.
entire
Go ahead.
yeah.
No, I just said it's economics of scale. Continue.
Yeah, so basically an entire industry is located in the same vicinity. So retailers, middlemen, and the suppliers are located next to each other, which reduces overall like transportation costs and
Also, the workers are also shared by these firms. So, suppose I have a firm and Tanisha has a firm, and we are agglomerate businesses. The workers I attain, I hire, I will have to train them to keep them in my business. But since Tanisha has the same business as I do, if my workers decide to leave or are made redundant, she can hire them and she won't have to train them. So then they save up on that training cost. And this is external economies of scale.
That's
so
also, and
this is also
you can say it's a positive externality to Tanisha because she's already benefiting from what you have put in your cost per
Yeah.
se for.
So this is not only for like, for example, redundant employees. So if Trisha has a very skilled employee, very experienced, who is doing better in her company, I can essentially poach them. I can poach an entire like section of her company because I have the same product. The similar skills and expertise apply to my product as well, and I
Yeah.
can pay them a higher price. So the poaching becomes a negative aspect of being next to each other because essentially there is no negative to the labor or the employees working at Trisha's company.
But it could positively benefit the workers because now it's like the workers are in demand and the firms are fighting over workers. So then that's a positive for them.
So also when we talk about the stakeholders, consumers become a major stakeholder because when similar businesses are located next to each other, their search costs reduce. Essentially, by consumer search costs, I mean that consumers don't only impulsively buy a product, they compare prices, they compare quality. So, when all the companies are lined up, they can do this more effectively. So, essentially, if all four of us have a company in the same line and I have a better quality and a lower price as compared to them, or I just have better designs in clothes, but they initially came to Trisha's company, they would rather choose the products from mine, so that creates a benefit for me. And since consumer demands are very different, all of us could apply from this concept.
Basically, for this, for example, Dadar flower market, a lot of like flower shops are kept like right next to each other. So this is beneficial for the producer as like the consumer will go for the highest quality and the lowest cost, right? So that way, like they're all benefiting from it being in the same area.
Also, a single competitor might get zero traffic, but if you have a lot of competitors in the same area, consumers are going to like set aside a certain day or come with the agenda that I am going like for this specific shopping. So it benefits the producer as well because you get more traffic.
To add
So
on
this
to
also
that, to add on to that, it just becomes like the location is then known for
Hmm.
this particular
Yeah.
product or whatever it is the vendors are selling.
So essentially this reduces like the marketing cost. So if a new business
Hmm.
puts their shop in the same location, they don't have to additionally market that, oh, we are here,
Yeah.
because it's known for that product.
But then again, there is no customer loyalty in this sort of
Hmm.
economy, I guess. So, yeah, that could also be a negative that you are always, there's a risk of you being one out.
Yeah. But another negative that comes from this is some consumers might be very far away from the product line. So this is a negative for the consumers because, for example, if you're living in Borivali, you're not going to come to the other flower market. So essentially, they lose out on that market segment. Also, the consumers don't have access to this market.
Yeah, and after a point, it's not going to increase your customers. If there's another shop opening within the same vicinity, you're not going to get more customers. The same customers are going to redistribute and everyone's going to get a smaller share.
Another negative that comes from this is the cost. Because all your competitors are right next to each other, you have increased knowledge of their pricing systems. So you're always in a price war to keep lowering your prices.
Correct.
So if a consumer, even if a competitor even reduces their price by 10 rupees, you have to match it because you will lose your customer base.
Another negative could be vulnerability to shared shocks. Everyone is going through the same dilemma. So, for example, if there's a rent hike in the neighborhood and there are people moving out, or there's a sudden like roadblock or some kind of disaster or calamity in the area, they are all suffering the same loss. And
Supply
that
side
also
shock.
reduces the customers' options to go to, because most of the good quality products of the same type are concentrated in that one place. So it's negatively impacting both consumer and producer.
An example of this would be the food street. I forgot what it was called. Something from M in Kandivali.
Mahavir
Mahavir
Nagar.
Nagar. Yeah, it was completely destroyed. It was not a legal marketplace. Uh, ho- Hotels were like on the streets, which is why it was demolished by the government. But it was a very infamous place of Mumbai where people came, ate, and there was so much variety. And yeah, it was customers lost out on that, and the
Yeah.
marketplace was really just lost.
So another negative that comes from all the businesses being so close to each other is the rent cost of actually owning a shop in that area. Because it is known for that product, the rent cost there will be very high. An example of this in Mumbai is Lincoln Road.
Yeah.
Any clothing shop that opens on that road is
Have to bear high fixed cost
yeah.
because of the rent.
And even like the owners, the people who are giving out their places on rent know that this is a prime location and people will come here to set shop no matter what. So they will inherently keep prices higher.
And there will be a lot of competitors for the same location. Like 4 to 5 businesses will want that same prime location and want to have their shop there, which will also hike up prices. Uh,
So then having to bear those high fixed costs, but then also being in a constant sort of price war, it is very difficult to participate as a vendor in this sort of
hmm.
market.
When we talk about a benefit as a shared infrastructure for businesses, we can also mention specialized labor. So, for example, if you know about the Kolhapuri chappal, that the controversy that recently happened, all the specialized labor will be in Kolhapur, right? So, essentially, if you want to open a shop for the Kolhapuri chappal, you will have to open it there because you will not find that specialized labor in other areas. So that is also a reason why businesses want to have locations in the same want to have the same locations.
So if you look at it from a global angle, you can say it benefits in tourism and inflow of money as well. Because the Kolhapuri chappal in itself, because it became such a big thing internationally, it drew attention towards that certain region in India, in Kolhapur. So you know that you're gonna have foreign investment for fashion in that specific area.
So domestic industry can thrive, right? Because that specialization only is present here in India.
So for this also brand loyalty is like a big factor, right? Because if for example, linking road again, if I wanted to buy shoes, I'm more likely to stick with the same brand that I've been using, right? But in the case of like the flower market, like it's all the same. Like it doesn't matter. There's no brand to it. So I would go and pick whatever just gives me the highest quality.
So yeah, in a market where everyone is located in the same place, if you can create that kind of brand loyalty through like specialized service or faster service or more product availability, you can even new consumers that come in, you can essentially have that market share for yourself. So that can come as a benefit for you. So if you're highly specialized in an area, if like shoes, you're specialized in sports shoes, then the newer market will also come to the same shop, regardless if you have other shops next to you.
Okay, so in the real world, clustering doesn't always match the prediction because there are certain categories that will cluster. Like you have restaurants, you have gas stations, you have car dealers, because their main thing is comparison shopping. People want to compare prices and shop. But if you look at um, businesses like gyms or grocery stores, people go here for convenience. So they are not as much going to compare prices and, like, you don't have to have these places together in one location. So it depends on the product itself. If it's convenience, you might not travel that far every time.
Hmm.
So when we talk about this, another point that comes up is the prime location that these businesses are located in. So, for example, all the top hotels have a commercial hotel near the airport, because obviously people coming from the airport, especially in Mumbai, for corporate reasons, they only stay for 1 or 2 days and they want
Yeah.
the convenience to have it next to the airport. So that is also why some businesses might be located next to each other. Or like near a stadium, there are a lot of jersey shops, like
Hmm.
sports jersey shops, because that is where their major customer market is. So to conclude, we started off by talking about homogeneous products and heterogeneous products. In the case of homogeneous products, the law of Hoteling's law applies, where because they have the same product and the same price, they naturally cluster towards each other to gain a higher market share and not let the other party have that market share. So this leads to the Nash equilibrium, where both the parties are worse off. When we talk about heterogeneous products, which is practically the case, there is the concept of agglomeration economies and consumer search costs, where a same industry can have all of the suppliers, retailers in the same spot, reducing transportation costs. Also, the search cost for consumers reduces because they can compare prices and quality for the same product and decide on what to buy. But the negatives of this are that there is a constant price war among the competitors. There is high rent and due to a prime location being used. That's all from Econ Unplugged. Plug back in with us next time. Bye.
I
Bye.